Hello and welcome to Rhythm and Pixels. We are a video game music podcast. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell.
We are a weekly video game music podcast. Every week we listen to great video game music from all consoles and all generations. This week we are at MAGFest 2023. We're going to be listening to the great music. We're going to be playing some games. We're not going to be doing a normal podcast show. We're just going to be goofing off.
But let's be honest, I don't think we've ever done a normal podcast show.
We wing it.
Absolutely.
We wing it with a very strict guides.
Well, let's be real. I have these long arms, so, I mean, our wingspan is pretty tight. Not very tight for this. We're covered.
Well, again, we want to thank everybody who came to the show, who's not at Night of the Round, who could and should be at Night of the Round. They're a fantastic band.
Also worth noting, just out of chuckles, is the fact that, video game Name That Tune is also taking place simultaneously. It's like the trifecta of Wham going on right now.
So a theme for today's show, we came up with a few different things. One was the history of MAGFest, which this room has been kind of the history of MAGFest.
This room has been all day.
Pernell's history of MAGFest.
More so that, than anything.
And also, I went through with just rare and expensive NES games, the Famicom games. Just games that are just way too pricey to get now, that are bizarre and have some really interesting music to it.
Will that be, I guess that's not the audience participation part then, right?
No, because at the end of this, we also have it's a Price is Right type thing. It's Price is Right hard mode. It's all about guessing the highest or the best speed run for some specific games.
Okay.
So
I'm going to win.
We'll get into that. We might be just doing that throughout the show. Pernell,
but I want to win.
This is not a numbered episode. Hey. We have a Pikachu. Pika. All right. So we have
voice verification completed.
We have we don't have a number for this episode, so which one of us is going to go first?
I could kick it off.
You can kick us off. All right, so you've got a number of tracks here. I have to figure out where they all are, and we can go from there.
Well, as you already generally know, I'm always like half asleep when I'm doing half of my track suggestion. So I recall each time I chose one and why I picked it, so I'm going to start with the easiest one for recollection purposes. This comes from the game Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This Team Star boss theme. I think we put various because it stopped being like the one composer, and now it's like 20 composers for that franchise. So it's like
the official soundtrack for this game has just all of the composers listed for all of the tracks. Mm-hmm. So I know it's not a few people, but I know it could be more than one. So
absolutely. So it's like just roll with various.
We're just going to roll with it. So we're going to kick us off with some Pokemon music. We're going to listen to from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Scarjo and Violet.
Scarlet Joe.
Do I have the right track for now?
I don't think so. You do. I'm teasing you.
You're teasing me.
Absolutely teasing you. But that's okay. That's what I like to do. So, oh my God, this track. I guess technically since we should ask people in the group now that I think about it. As far as listening to the tracks, would you rather give a quick listen in full before we chat? Like the podcast? Or since we're all hanging out in the same room, do you want to just go?
Yeah, we'll listen to this one a little bit. Just a little bit. So are there vocals on this track? It just sounds like
not a drop.
Not a drop. It does sound like there's some screaming going on there.
Yeah, I mean, there could be, but I mean, I'll be honest, Nintendo sees, Game Freak has a thing about putting voices in their games, so they're not going to be adding vocals anytime soon. Unless you're a Pokemon, of course, and then there's a ton of sounds.
Pokemon is definitely yo thing.
Absolutely, yes. 100%. And Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is the newest release in the franchise. It has received mixed reception, I'll say, but I feel like the majority of people who play the games have acknowledged that the game could have used a little bit more time in the oven, but at its core, it's still probably the best one in the franchise has had in quite some time, and I am in agreement with that, to be perfectly honest. There's room to grow, but I want to grow from here. Maybe a combination of Arceus and Scarlet and Violet with a little bit more oomph polish. and maybe a voice or two. They had a rapper as a gym battler, and they had no voices. No voices.
Oh, did they do like the Sims thing where it's like? I would
have been happier with that.
That doesn't sound very Pokemon to me.
No.
Now, you were talking to a game fan outside about certain Pokemon names, and it just sounded like you were just making up words.
But at this point, there's so many Pokemon. That's what they're doing too. So I don't feel so bad.
You were like door handle. It was like a Kaiser Soze moment.
Yeah, the 1,000th Pokemon is Gold Dingo. Yeah, Grand Cheese. It takes $1,000, 1,000 coins to evolve them. But
So you have to pay the Pokemon to evolve them.
At this point, I mean, it's a lot of work.
No, they're shelling out for money.
Beat up a bunch of chests. It's like 20 along with a bunch of incremental ones. Then one can finally evolve into a Pokemon who has a move called like make it rain, which is make it rain money.
So now,
and here's the beautiful part about that. And this is where it ties into MAGFest. So Goldingo, I'm glad it actually somehow came around to that.
I was going to say.
Goldingo is a Steel Ghost Pokemon. For the past, I may say since MAGFest 10 or 11, this is my first year not doing it. I have been a part of the MAGFest Pokemon League in the game room as their still gym leader. Goldingo is going to probably be one of my crowning Pokemon when I get my team ready for the ECPL, which is the East Coast Pokemon League. But I wanted to mention this in regards to MAGFest because I feel like a large part of what makes MAGFest so special is the communities that form within the site. And MAGFest allowing us to use the MAGPL as a staging ground allowed so many more Pokemon players in this region and beyond to come together for this mutual cause. Most importantly, adult Pokemon players, which was the original purpose behind the East Coast Pokemon League. It was like, we want to play Pokemon with people our own age. They're out there somewhere, and we sure as heck found them.
Yeah, my first time coming to MAGFest was seeing you kind of like stuck in a seat with people coming up to you, like challenging you for a badge.
Yes.
Which I think is a fantastic idea because MAGFest as itself isn't just one community. It's kind of a congregation of multiple communities.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about it is that you get so many different mindsets that come out to this thing. Like you'll get a person who is hyper competitive and they'll come sit at your table with this like really mean stare. Like they're there they want blood. And you're just like smiling like, hey, ready to play Pokemon? Or like, I'm going to kill you. I'm like, okay, this is not great. I don't know what to tell you. But then you'll also get like these children who come with their parents and they sit down with you and the mom or the dad is like, my son really likes Pokemon and he told me he wanted to come to this event, but I don't know what to make of it. I was like, well, that's okay. We'll have fun. And then the kid will play and their team is not EV trained or IV bred. It's just, this Pokemon is cool because he has a set of keys. And I'm like, I like Klefki too. I got a Klefki. Check mine out. So at the end, I got to be honest, I still beat him because I'm not losing Pokemon to anybody if I can help it. But when it's over, you can't lose just because I'm a good person. But I'm not losing to anybody if I can help it. But when it's over, the beautiful part is that you have this nice discussion where it's like, hey, let me look at your team. Let me see your favorite Pokemon. They go through the roster and like, here, you can give them Pokemon sometimes. It's a really wholesome vibe.
Yeah, and you taught kids that life is hard.
But you can overcome it with the proper training.
And you can't always win.
But you can overcome it with the proper
and
training.
A very tall adult will beat you.
That is true. That is true. I'm not disputing that. But even still, you can overcome it with the right training. I don't know, IV breeding, I don't know. But the point is, there's room around it. It's not the end of the world just because an adult beats you at a children's game. No. It's still fun.
Pokemon's great. It teaches you about patience and math and friendship and math.
So much math.
So much math.
So much math. And that's one last thing I'll say before I move on in regards to Pokemon, which blows my mind about that entire franchise. So, early Pokemon games, people just kind of play for fun. Then someone discovered a bunch of math and algorithms to say, this is how you get the perfect Pokemon. It requires a lot of tedium and a loss of time you don't want to give up. And we did it because you kind of had to be the best like no one ever was. And then Game Freak finally decided that they wanted to kind of make it a little more streamlined. Take out a lot of the bike riding in a circles bit. Maybe have a picnic where you can go and make your own sandwich while your Pokemon make eggs, Things that don't require you to just sit there and do things ad nauseum. And the fans hated it. They actively said we want the tedium back. I will never understand why that's the case. Like, why would you actively request tedium to come back to your game? Because to me, personally,
because we became adults is probably the problem.
I got enough of that in my life. I want Pokemon as quickly as possible so I can battle people and learn what strategies do and do not work, and then try again. I don't want to spend all my time breeding a specific Pokemon just to get it spanked because I didn't think through something correctly and have to do it all over again.
Having your Switch out, playing it all the way down here like you're studying for a test, and you're going to be caught with your pants down in math class.
That's how it actually works.
Exactly
Because that's how it works.
That's what happened.
That's how it works.
That's how it happened. All right, so we're gonna switch gears here a little bit. We're gonna go into the Nintendo Entertainment System. We're gonna listen to one of the more bizarre games. Remember the game called Zombie Nation?
But the giant head?
It's a giant head. Its full title is actually Samurai Zombie Nation.
And then it came to the States. It's like, you know what people don't like in the States? 3-worded titles.
Yeah, a giant flying head's in a shooter that's not Karnov. For some reason, we love Karnov, but we can't get down with a flying samurai head. So we're going to listen to, I think it's the first track. Which one is that? No, yeah, Round 1, Part 1. Has a very interesting soundtrack. This game company only made a handful of games for the NES. This is the only one that came out to the States. I don't know why they chose this one to come out to the States. This is Zombie Nation, composed by Takane Akubo.
Okay.
It sounds like modern chiptune, to be fair.
It sounds pretty good.
It's really good. This part's excellent. Anytime they harmonize like two of the channels, I go, "Oh, damn, they can do that." All right, so Zombie Nation. The story is that there's an evil entity in America that zombifies all of America, and then uses zombified Americans to steal a samurai sword and from some museum somewhere. That body of the samurai in Japan wakes up. Only the head of it, because it was decapitated.
Okay.
Flies to America to kill all of the zombie Americans, retrieve the sword, and stop the threat. So it's a side-scrolling shooter where you're just a giant head and you're shooting eyeballs.
Okay.
And like at some point, it even turns into like Ghostbusters, where like the Statue of Liberty comes up, but the Statue of Liberty has like a Medusa like snake head, and it's fighting this giant samurai head. This is one of the strangest games I've ever rented from Blockbuster.
Oh, jeez.
Because I would have never bought this game. The cover of it actually looks a lot like Zombie Ate My Neighbors. And so you would think you're getting one game and you're getting something very different.
I remember Nintendo Power actually releasing some details about this title, which is the only reason I know about it, because I've actually never seen it available at any rental shop or purchasable venue. It was just a game that I knew existed out there in some fantasy camp.
So I wanted to pick this because it does sound very much like to me like modern chiptune. I think of like all of the modern tricks of using like pulse width modulation, of like making those two channels together sound a lot thicker by by modulating both of those pulses together. So it's like a harmonization, but it just fattens it up and it tricks the ear into making it sound like it's a lot more. There's a few other soundtracks that do this, but halfway through the song, I feel like it's really successful. And here at MAGFest, they've really embraced not just video game cover bands, but also chiptunes. And so I really encourage everyone here to go to the chip space if you haven't been there yet.
Or just also listen to more chiptunes, because as Chris can attest, we were at the Name That Game tune before coming to this panel, and there were times where I kind of, I don't get me wrong, it's not an easy thing to do, no matter how you slice it. Guessing music from games out of the plethora of game music is hard. But there were times in that room where my eyes were like bouncing around, like, come on, what of you has this? What do you has it?
Right.
And at the end of the thing, the host, Tim, would go, audience, and have the audience name the game. There were like 3 instances where like me and maybe one other person out of an audience of hundreds of people were like, that's the game, this is the game. It's like, what? Like people, it's rough when there's so few people announcing it that people look back at you like, who said that? And you're like, oh, I didn't know, I'm sorry. I was so excited to name a Shining Force 2 track that nobody else but one guy in the room knew.
Did you want to play some music from Shining Force 2?
I don't think I brought any, did I?
Yeah, you did. You sent me.
I did.
You sent me so much.
Fine. But not yet. Because I actually have another narrative in general about this for another thing here. So let's go with the stage theme 2 from the Goonies 2 on the Nintendo Entertainment System, composed by Hidenori Maezawa and Sato Terashima.
We're going to keep it chip style, huh?
Well, we could. We could. So, like, for folks while he's looking for it, the context behind this is that Rob, like normal for the show, chose a very succinct list of tracks.
Yeah.
He kept it nice and streamlined,
4
as
or
you should.
5, it's not going to be a long show. You give me like 16.
No, it was 8. I thought it was like 18, but I was like, we need more music. Here, take a bunch of music. I'll come up with some reason for it later. Here it is, a bunch of tunes.
All right, here we go. Is it good enough for you, Pernell?
I guess.
Is it good enough?
I guess.
This is also really good. On Wikipedia, the Goonies 2 is referenced as a Metroidvania.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started on that turd.
This is a Pernell track. Listen to that. Listen to how happy that is.
7-year-old Pernell was obsessed with this track.
You'd be like skanking in your room like that.
No, I wasn't doing that. That dance didn't exist yet. Well, it did, but Carlton didn't popularize it.
Right. Oh, yeah, I was kind of doing the Carlton there. I've noticed on my streams I do a lot of Carlton dances, and I'm thinking, I'm just kind of grooving. It's really cool. And then someone said, "You're going to
whoa, rewind for a second. You're telling me you'll be playing Stepmania or In the Groove or whatever it is called now on the difficulty you do, and you're somehow fitting in the Carlton?
I would, but no. It's when I do my DJ streams.
Okay, that's different. That's different. Rob plays Dance Revolution, but he plays those obscene difficulties that only the guy that's hopped up on caffeine and like nitrous is doing, and the idea of him doing that with his feet while also doing this, I can't.
No, I hold on to the bar for dear life. No, it's my other streams where I play mostly Eric B. and Rakim and 90s hip-hop. And apparently I do the Carlton because I am still a white man.
Hey, as long as you're doing it on rhythm, that's all that matters. So there's your end remember early on in the episode here. It's not about what your dance moves are. Just do them to the beat.
I'm enthusiastic.
That's what it's all about.
It's what I'm an enthusiast. A Carlton enthusiast. So tell me about the Goonies 2. Goonies 2, your favorite movie? Goonies 2 Revenge.
Well, actually, I learned while talking about this is that they're claiming that there's still a Goonies 2 movie potentially in the works for 2024.
No.
I'll believe it when I see it. Because I don't know how half those people are going to do it. And I'm pretty sure one of the Fratellis is dead.
We're done. So. No more revivals. No more.
No Monkey's Paw revival of cast member. Oh, they scrapped it again?
Yeah, that's right. That's good.
I mean, it doesn't need to happen. It's done its time. It's good. But the Goonies 2 is a game that, at the time it came out on the NES, I didn't understand what its context was to the original Goonies. I read the plot synopsis, and none of it made sense.
Did you see the movie?
There was a mermaid? Yeah, I saw the movie.
Okay.
But it's been so long, I barely remember a chunk. I just know I love chunk.
Yeah.
I know that. But the thing about this is that it came up in recent context because a friend of mine named Francis has been trying to convince me to do some more gaming with him. And friend of the show, Musashi219, does a Twitch stream. So he's been trying to get me more into doing Twitch as well. So through a series of conversations between these two people, it became a decision that I'm going to revisit the Goonies 2 with Francis. We're going to try to do one sitting, one playthrough straight.
You could do that. You could absolutely do that for Goonies 2.
But the thing is, the Goonies 2 also has a specific instance in my life because it was the first time in my life that I had to call a game hotline for help.
Yes.
Yes, because...
Show of hands, who called the game hotline when they were younger and got in trouble? Just us?
Here's a follow-up question. How many people in this room were children at the time when game hotlines existed and game...
There's more
That's the question, because I don't think that this point is like... Actually, it wasn't 1-900. Actually, it was 1-900. It was either that or it was like close enough that you had to pay. 255-3700.
You call up and you say, "Talk Kirby to me."
You don't believe me? Look it up. That was the Nintendo hotline number. But I got stuck at a point where I was trying to find the scuba suit, and I was walking back and forth. This is probably where I developed that whole memory map that I've got now. But I'm like walking around trying to circle, just trying to make sense of where am I going? What do I need to do? And I'm mapping every room I've been to, everything I found in the rooms. Called Nintendo Hotline. They required you to use a specific type of tool in a specific type of room that you've never done up until that point in the game. And yeah, someone does tell you that you can do that, but like classic NES games with terrible translations, it didn't make a lot of sense the way they explained it. So I'm hoping that with that experience out the way, we'll sit through this game and this revisit, and we'll just blow right through it.
I think it'd be
but
great.
We'll see.
I want to see it. I want to be right there with you, just watching you play the Goonies.
Yeah, I'll be done. A beer in hand. I'll have a sandwich in another hand. I'll be playing with my teeth.
I'll be having a good time. All right, so we talked about Pokemon. We talked about the Goonies. These are all games that kids, younger kids, below teenagers and younger would fully enjoy. You know what games kids would absolutely love to get for Christmas? A game about managing an airport.
Shaq Fu.
So my cousin Mikey had all of these games that his dad got for him because it looked cool on the cover, and AeroBiz was one of them. AeroBiz is it's a management sim on the Super Nintendo. He fell in love with this game. We're gonna listen to AeroBiz Supersonic. For the Sega Genesis, which I think it's worth like $500-$600 online now, probably because no one but Mikey and his father bought it and actually played it. This is the sequel to AeroBiz, where you're actually managing airlines through history, which is really interesting. So we're going to listen to I think of the menu theme from AeroBiz. It's got some really jazzy, really elevator-style music, and I mean elevator like in a really good way. Okay. Like you're in the elevator and you don't want anyone to notice how much you're in love with this music. So this is from AeroBiz. This is a good tune. All right. Making that Sega Genesis smooth.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Damn, how'd you know?
I had to fit that in there. I had to. Goes the goblins.
It's a shorty. It's a shorty for sure. It's only like 30 or 40 seconds, but it's got enough interest so that when you're just choosing your airline, making your decisions, the whole purpose is to be the ultimate airline of that era.
I was about to ask, why is it that Pilot Wings gets so much soundtrack love these days, but no one ever talks about AeroBiz, but then I guess it's the whole sim part.
It's very simmy. You're just in menu. So you're listening to this song a whole lot. So the game is split up into quarters, where like the first quarter of the game is the dawn of flight, right? You're the very first airlines. And then it kind of goes on to present day, which is in the 90s. And then there is the future, which is in 2022. And the game has random events that happen where it just picks a major city and says there's a civil war going on. So it's like Pittsburgh Civil War, it's crazy.
But you still gotta get those planes off the ground.
But it was also very forward-thinking in that it knew that climate change would be a potential threat to people and airline travel and businesses.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, a lot of that took play. It was a big play in the game. You had to compensate for fuel shortages, fires, civil unrest in Pittsburgh for some reason.
Oh.
Yeah,
but at the same thing, at the end of the day, you got to spice up that sim aspect,
Oh, you got to tell me. We both rented games back in the day.
Okay.
What are some games that you rented that you were like, this is not what you expected to rent? Can you think of one?
Well, for me, it was more so games that we got from either Goodwill or from the Woolworth discount bin.
Yeah.
Because my dad, so it's funny, you listen to the show and you might think, well, Pernell played a lot of games growing up. He had a lot of money growing up. No. We had very little money, and a lot of my games were either hand-me-downs from relatives or rentals or bargain bin buys. And I think one of my favorite ones, which comes up on a lot of the shows that people don't like, is a game called Amagon. It was by American Sammy, which I don't even think exists anymore. And it was a game about a man. Like the front of the cover has like a giant man flexing and a little tiny man with a gun in the front. So it's like, you become strong and powerful. And you also have a gun when you're weaker, which is actually kind of funny. And also I can appreciate that. Like strength comes from within, not from a firearm. Take that.
That's absolutely what you were thinking about when you were younger, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you buy the game and you take it home, it's just like an interesting little game where like a Marine crash lands on an island and he has to escape from said island. And you're running around with this little pea shooter gun, but you're weaker in this form and everything in his grandma kills you in one hit while you are in this position. It's very frustrating and difficult. And you also even have limited ammunition. So in rare case for NES games, you can honestly lock yourself out of forward progression by running out of ammo on a side scroller.
Oh, a lot of these NES games where they had these grand plans to be these huge adventure games with all of these like inventory systems and health systems and status systems, but like you only had 2 buttons to work with on the controller, so you could very, very easily, I guess they call it soft lock your game, where you can only get so far. For me, it was Dick Tracy. I don't know why, for some reason in the 90s, Dick Tracy was like a thing. Like, let's bring back the Dick Tracy radio show.
Hey, don't hate on Dick Tracy. He had a cool hat.
I'll hate all day. And because the video game was just like the lamest, like part side-scrolly, part overhead. No one knew what to do in that game. But it was Dick Tracy, so everyone bought it, and everyone was expecting, like, all you had to do was make a beat 'em up, right? All you needed to do was left to right, beat up some, like, fake goons. That's all you needed. But no. Here's a 12-year-old trying to figure out how to make Dick Tracy get to the next house.
And sometimes that's
and
all
there's a sniper constantly shooting him. Where did the sniper come from?
The man was skilled. He knew what he was doing.
Dick Tracy's a wanted man.
Yes.
I think we got time for one more track. That we're going to listen to a couple more and get into our game show.
I was about to say, yeah, I definitely want to get into the game show.
Yeah, the Price is Right hard mode. All right, so Pernell, what you got next?
All right, so I feel like this would be a good one for this convention, and also because it's an excuse to finally get a track from this game on the show. This comes from the game FX Unit Yuki. The track title is called Invasion of Castle Kilmara, and it's composed by Garbled Waves.
This is an indie title.
Absolutely.
Or like a modern indie game for an older system, right? Mm-hmm. Pick some heavy tunes.
It's so good.
I like that. Sounds like a boss theme. Boss theme?
Nope. The boss theme is very heavy. I didn't think I wanted that here, so I was like, I'll leave that home. Ooh. And the funny was I haven't gotten to the part that I wanted to choose it for yet.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, look at that. Here we go.
Oh, that's nice. That's really... I'm glad I got the right tune, because we have to say, this was released on the multiple platforms.
Yes. So, though I'm not sure what their theming was for it once I realized that. So, the game itself, I played it on a Super FX station at a friend's house, which I think is where the FX Unit title comes in here. And the premise of the game is really bizarre. It's hard to even convey properly, but you're basically an AI character created by a scientist to participate in a series of game worlds inspired by existent games. But there's corruption in the game verse, so you're fighting like an evil organization that's trying to take over the world through the game verse. But the levels take place in parodied areas. Like there's a Bonk's Adventure level, there's a Castlevania level, which I actually bought a track from the Castlevania level here too. This track, oddly enough, though you'll probably get it immediately when I say this, is inspired by Lords of Thunder from the Sega CD / TurboGrafx, which is also a heavy track.
Tease music.
Yes. Right. So I played this game from beginning to end at my friend's house on a console that I can't afford, and I'm fine with that. Let him own it. Shoot. But the game itself is okay.
Looks like a solid, like, platforming, like Mega Man style shooter.
Yeah, you earn abilities as you go. But to me, it was the theming and the music that really sells it. And what makes it interesting to tie it into MAGFest is the fact that if you haven't explored the game room area beyond the general console and arcade area, they have a spectacular indie / fan-made game environment that has produced some really good games. Really good games. Some of which actually do eventually end up making it onto like home console releases. They go beyond MAGFest as well. But I know you mentioned that one that you were playing like that one like game where you're like in a bubble container or something. You were talking about. I know I played like a tank game down there.
I was
once.
in a bubble container.
I thought you were like in a pod.
I was in a pod.
Yeah, you were talking to somebody about.
Oh no, that was like some old school Battlezone like VR game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was not an indie game.
No, well that wasn't okay. Well, there was another game that eventually did come out called Earth Knight, where you were like a character running on top of a dragon's back, and it was kind of like almost like an auto runner, but it was really fun. And it started here, and it did eventually get a console release. But even the ones that don't ultimately get console releases, that doesn't make them bad in any way. It's a muckluck to get published by a developer or by a publisher these days. So sometimes it's just a matter of making your game known somewhere, and MAGFest is a good place to do it. So get down and experience some of that indie love, because I'll be perfectly honest, in my personal perspective, I'd rather play a lot of the indie stuff down there than a lot of the modern stuff that's
my first
coming
couple
out
of
in the day and
MAGFests,
age.
I spent most of my time just like browsing and then seeing what was available. Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to get into the part of the show now we usually call the bonus round. The bonus round is where we play covers and remixes and arrangements on our show. So often on our show, we just listen to classic game music or modern game music, but usually music designed, composed for games. But we also like to play covers and remixes at the very end, just to kind of give some love and some attention to some of the great artists out there. We're not doing that today. We're going to play Price is Right, hard mode, any percent.
Wait, what?
These are instructions for next panelists.
That makes it really difficult then, doesn't it?
This actually works really well. This is from the game Trip World, a Sunsoft Game Boy game.
Okay.
Came out at the same time as Gimmick, so it's very much like Gimmick. It's got a fantastic soundtrack. Everything from Sunsoft is gold. I think about the best soundtracks on the NES and the Game Boy, and I think about Konami and Sunsoft.
Yes.
And they kind of go like this. Sunsoft is always like kind of at the top.
I don't know, Ultra Games, man, which is Konami, but
All right,
that's like a peak.
Pernell hasn't seen any of these answers yet, which I'm really, really happy about.
If I did, that would kind of ruin the fun here. I like participating and being just as bewildered as everyone else.
Can we have a few volunteers from the audience? We have a couple microphones over here. Can we have the Mummer, Kev, Kristen, and Chris?
Come on down or up. Your choice.
We're going to switch it up later on.
Your choice of terminology.
Yeah, those two are hot. Oh, look at this. Oh, look at this. You got to beat Pernell is the whole thing. You got to beat Pernell. Win some M-Bucks. Wow, I came prepared, didn't I? Chris and Chris, you mind sharing the Chris microphone? Thank you. All right, so people have made playing video games their own sport, no matter what it is, whether it's competitive, like directly competitive, like NBA Jam style, or just competitive. How fast can you beat the game? And I have a lot of not just sympathy, but nostalgia for that. You know, being a young kid, you only have one game, you play that to death, you get good at it.
Okay.
Why not be the best in the world at it? And finishing it as quickly as possible. All right, so Pernell, you played some music from Pokemon Scarlet, isn't that right?
I did. Is this going to come back to haunt me in court?
Okay, any percent. So meaning completing the game with as many or as little items, monsters as possible. How fast can the best person complete Pokemon Scarlet? Pernell.
I'll start with me, huh? Just going to make me...
I'm going to start with you. I'm going to work back to the Chris's.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, I do like Pokemon. My favorite type of Pokemon is the Steel type. And I did eat, a decent balanced breakfast this morning.
I'm going to need an answer, Pernell.
Oh. As a result, I'm going to, believe it or not, I'm going to go with 3.5 hours.
3.5 men for Pernell. Kev.
So I'm going to go with 6 hours.
6 hours. Chris? 4:25 for Chris, and for Kristen?
2:30.
2:30?
Oh, I'm surrounded.
2 hours and 30 is impressive, but Chris Murray is correct, closest.
What?
That's right,
What?
4.5 hours.
My Glavin, that's not kosher. Okay.
Can you pass the man that little chip over there? We'll get one more in on you guys. All right. All right, so we listened to the Goonies, NES game, glitchy as hell. We all know this. Most NES games can be. And glitched as well. Any percentage of the game completed, but just to the end. A person named Professor Retro finished this game very...
What's this game?
I'm sorry, the Goonies 2.
Oh, wow.
For the NES.
Wow.
Glitchy mess.
You're going to put that on me? You're going to put that on me?
You played when you were younger. You should know.
Now you're telling me that when I go back to play it, I already have this guy I got to compete with, this individual.
His name is Professor Retro.
Professor Retro.
He's my
monster.
dad.
No, well then. Sorry.
All right, any percent, finishing the game as quickly as possible. He glitched it. You know he glitched it.
Oh, he glitched it.
You know it's glitched.
Oh, if he glitched it. I'm going with 16 minutes.
16 minutes for Pernell. Kev.
I'm going to go with 27 minutes.
27 minutes.
12 minutes.
12 minutes, and did you take it?
You said
27.
I said 16.
16, 27, 12,
7.
and 7.
Ow!
The answer is 13 minutes and 16 seconds. Chris Murray.
No. I said, wait, what did you say again?
12.
Oh my God.
I actually watched a guy try to break this record for a long time, so I knew it was in that.
Oh, it was a very
so you-
specific one.
Wait, we have Professor Retro on the stage?
Oh my God.
It's actually a very good speedrun game.
Oh, was it good fun to watch? All right, we got one more for you guys. Let's go down here.
Jesus Christ, going for a hat trick?
All right, here we go. Super Mario 64, all 120 stars. Every star, all the stars, every star in the game Super Mario and the number 64. The 63rd
I want to go last.
title. And
I want to go last this time.
all right,
It's an unfair advantage.
no, I like picking on you.
No!
Well, you can start.
I'll go first.
We can start on the other
My
end.
hero, save me.
Volunteer for it.
All right, Kevin.
I'm going to go with 37 minutes. I like that number.
37 minutes. Are you sure?
137. There you go. I'm going with that. I like that one better.
Chris.
I'm gonna go 3:25.
3 minutes and
3 hours 25.
3 hours 25. All right.
It was all 120, right?
He was at 137. We got
All 120 stars.
all 120
2
stars.
hours and 52 minutes.
This man met Yoshi.
You said 2 hours?
2 hours 52.
2 hours 52? Pernell, don't even give me an answer. I know you're going to fail this thing.
So
Come
give me
on.
the numbers again. Give me.
120 stars.
No, I want the times. Repeat times.
We got 128 minutes.
137.
137.
252.
250.
So we had 250, 252, 253.
Oh, Kev is the closest. It was actually an hour 37.
So wait
Excellent.
a minute. So you're telling me I used the tactic, and this is the one time I should have gone backwards?
You think the tactic is like people playing rock, paper, scissors, and someone goes, hey, dynamite, and they just win?
No, the tactic is you over or undershoot by a penny.
Oh, it doesn't work when you've got some smart people up on this table.
That is true.
There you go. Thank you very much, Kev.
Here you
welcome.
go.
Thank
Can we give him a round of applause, please?
Oh my God, that was no. See, that was rigged. I think that was rigged. Did you guys have insider information? Did he talk to you before the show? Because I feel slighted. There it is.
That's what I do, yes.
Finally, vindication.
What are friends for, Pernell? Pernell, is there another track you want to listen to right now?
You know what? There could be another track I want to listen to right now. Let's go with the Shining Force track.
You say Shaq Fu Force track?
No. Actually, no, take it back. You know what? Because I think I have another story about this I'd like to hear. Do the Kid Chameleon Swamp Area theme by Mark Miller.
Oh. Yeah, that is a fantastic soundtrack. Sega of America knew what young Rob Nichols wanted, and that was a really aggressive, heavy, distorted sounding synthesizer.
And yet modern Sega of America doesn't know what people want, which is a Kid Chameleon 2. I want a sequel, and I want it many years ago. I love this track.
I like this part. It sounds like this sounds more like a kazoo. This is the kazoo section.
I'll be honest with you. There was, after the whole debacle on the confirmation that Michael Jackson's sound team worked on the Sonic soundtrack, Sonic 3 soundtrack, certain tracks in this game make me think that if anything, I would have thought they would have worked on this soundtrack. There's just certain bits that make me think,
It does have a little bit
Dave
of that.
Bow Bow. You know what I'm talking
That
about.
kind of little funk bit, but it really, to me, it sounds more like the grunge music of the era. This is like a Soundgarden song to me. A little bit faster.
Soundgarden?
Not a Black Hole Sun, but, you know,
I
something.
mean, I guess. Take my save me. So like, I feel like this track and my selection of it is very relevant to the game we just played because I've talked about on the show how I did the speed run attempt at Shining Wisdom for an attempt at getting $10,000. Instead, I got a year subscription to EGM because they're horrible people at Working Designs who just decided that first place is $10,000 and second place is a $34.95 magazine subscription. But I digress. The other reason, but the thing about it is that wasn't my first attempt at speedrun ever. My actual first attempt at speedrun was Kid Chameleon. And I actually recorded the entire thing on VHS cassette, EP. So that was a big mistake. But then the second mistake is living with my brother because he then took that and recorded over it for a basketball game that he can't remember anymore. So the evidence is gone.
I like that little dig there. It's like, oh, he wanted to record a basketball game that he can't remember anymore. But however, you came over to my house and you were like, hey, Rob, I got the Sega Genesis Classics. Let's go play it on your Xbox. You throw in Kid Chameleon, and then you're at my house for hours. Just playing through Kid Chameleon. I'm making dinner. I'm like, hey, what do you anything up, Pernell? No, I'm still on my first life. That's good.
Still good.
Why do they even put two players in these games?
That is an interesting thing when you think about it, though.
You take
they
turns.
They don't do that anymore, but there was an era where you had these essentially single-player games that they just shoehorned a player 2 mode in there so you could just watch one person play the entire game on one life while the other person just sitting there holding their controller waiting, and then you finally die, and the other person, Rob, gets a turn,
No.
and then they die in the first area, so then you go again. And then now you're watching for another 3 hours waiting for your next attempt at the game.
And Kid Chameleon is so long. It's like you get Kid Chameleon, you bring Pernell to your house, then suddenly you have a new roommate.
That's right.
That's what it does. Little
They
buddy
do.
mode. Yeah,
They
that would
do.
be fantastic.
More games have been doing that, and I'm grateful for that. People will call it easy mode. I call that's bonding mode. Get out of my face. I enjoy it. So
I'll have a 5-year-old and it's Saturday morning mode.
yes, and they need that too. I mean, how many people here? I mean, it's going to be hard. It's hard to gauge, but like, how many people either did or have experienced someone in a situation where they're playing the game and a little kid wants to play alongside them? So you do that fake thing where you give them a controller that's not turned on. It's like, hey, here you go, you're playing with me.
Yes, absolutely.
I gave them the wrong controller for the wrong system. They didn't even have batteries to work with.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, eventually they get wise to it. They start to see you're the one making things happen on the screen, and they're just mashing buttons like, I want that controller. Like,
So
no,
there's
no.
Street Fighter 6 has that mode where someone can just mash on the controller, and it's essentially they're kind of pushing the AI forward. So you feel like you're making something happen on the screen.
See, now that almost scares me. They're going to learn my chaotic play style. And now I won't be good at Street Fighter anymore because, I'm platinum rank, but all I do is mash the buttons, and they can't figure out what
I
I'm
think
doing.
they're going to restrict those modes on the online mode. But let's listen to some more chip tunes, and then we have some more Price is Right hard mode. So we're going to listen to one of my all-time favorite soundtracks, again on the Game Boy. This is Castlevania 2, Belmont's Revenge. We're going to listen to the track. It's titled Psycho Warrior by Hidehiro Funahashi.
Oh, stop. Qu'est-ce que c'est?
All right, can we have a couple more volunteers? Anyone else want to play our game with us? You, sir? You want to go? Oh, you back there in the blue? Anybody else? Okay, we'll take you three then. That'd be great, if you don't mind. Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I
guys-
find funny, though,
If you guys don't mind sharing a microphone. That's okay.
they played Gargoyle's Quest at the Name That Tune, and that was another one where like no one in the audience knew it. So it's like I feel like there needs to be a
That's
panel.
with the demon dude from the Ghouls and Ghosts, yeah?
Yes. So I have a proposition here. If we even attempt to apply for a panel next year, I want it to be some sort of classic music appreciation
Yes.
because, and Chris can vouch for this, the pain was visible. I'm like, how does no one know these great tunes? They're so good, but it's just because the generation shift,
All right, we'll start with the back. Miss Pikachu over there. We're listening to Castlevania Belmont's Revenge for the Game Boy. The Castlevania games on the Game Boy were incredibly slow. I don't know why they were. So the fastest time for Castlevania 2 on the Game Boy. And any percent, again, on the US version. How fast do you think this could be completed? At the fastest, most professional level?
I'm going to guess about 49 minutes.
49 minutes. It's pretty good. And then we're there in the black.
Let's say about, I'm going to say 57.
49, 57 in the blue. What do you
I
think?
say about an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
4 castles. There's 4 castles.
Doing the math over
Maybe.
here.
Well, I have to. I need
There's
to
like
keep my gift
equations are
cards. I'm
popping
trying to
up in
win
front
back.
of you.
This is like win Ben Stein's money, but in reverse. So 3, 6, 9, 12. I'm going to go with average of 3 minutes per stage. 21 minutes.
Well, the answer is 25 minutes. You are correct, but Miss Pikachu's the closest. Please give her a card. You win, but you're not allowed to have things. And I say that with love, Pernell.
Take Pernbon's money. The only downside is we're down to 1 M chip point, so.
All right, we got 2 more. We're gonna keep this NES style. We're gonna keep this licensed game NES style. Total Recall, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, for the NES. We know we all love that game. That's one we all rented and we're very confused about. By the professional player Overswarm. Any percent, glitching, all that stuff. How fast do you think Total Recall could be completed?
Oh, geez. I'm going to say about an hour 10.
An hour 10. Hour 10 from Miss Pikachu, Man in the Black.
So, any percent, yeah?
Any percent, Total Recall.
37 minutes.
37. Going half of that. Oof. In the blue?
About 40 minutes.
40 minutes.
Okay.
What was your guess again in the black?
37.
37, okay.
So Total Recall had that horrible scene when they're on the moon gasping for oxygen, doesn't it?
Yes, and I don't know if I never got that far in the game. I'm going to assume that it was also, there was some torture happening.
Okay, so if they, in some way...
He did have to fight his wife that didn't turn out to be his wife.
Yeah, it was like the simulation.
Did he have to shoot her like 50 times with bullets?
So assuming they put that scene in the game, and the person playing the game would have needed to take some time to recover from seeing that digitized in the game, I'm going to go with 42 minutes.
The answer is actually only 6 minutes.
Whoa!
Who are these people with such fortitude that they can play that game and not get sick with the eyeball popping?
I think the lady in the blue was the lowest.
Last time!
You ain't lying.
Oh, you won.
Congratulations.
We're going to go with that. I didn't write anything down. We have one more.
Also, just to make sure I got this right, because we know you're Pikachu. Are you Saber? Okay, I still got it. I'm not out of the loop yet.
You're like Saber from Power Rangers?
No. I already had one bad Power Rangers guess. I know what Saber's from.
Someone was listening to the Green Ranger music in the parking lot today.
Yeah, that was the funniest thing.
It had a double entendre for the Green Ranger. All right, so I think the last one we're going to go with here is something a little more. No, I have a whole bunch of weirdos here. We're going to Super Metroid, the complete map, completing the entire map.
So 100% of the map, all the missiles and power-ups and all that
Super
good stuff?
Metroid, just completing the map, getting all the map. I guess you have to get to the section. You have to pick it up. You just got to complete the map. I like Mappy from. Anyway, go on. Miss Pikachu, do you have a guess for me?
From personal experience, I'd say probably about 53 minutes.
53 minutes. Excellent.
I'm going to hedge bets a little bit, say an hour 16.
I'm going to say about 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
I'm going to go smack dab in the middle. 40, possibly, minutes.
Well, I think Miss Pikachu is dead on. It was about an hour. It was an hour 17.
Oh my God.
Very, very good.
The downside is I don't have any more M points, but I do have...
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Okay, so Pernell gave everything away, right?
I did.
Well, thank you all very much for playing our game.
I will say before they go, as long as you're... Do you have any more of them?
I have a couple more, yeah.
If you're okay with playing with... But I'm out of gift cards for like one more round, I'd be interested in just like seeing some of the other ones you chose.
You guys want to play any more?
Yeah, I'm down.
You down? Are you down? Do you want to play any more or no? You don't have
having
to.
fun.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Anybody else want to play? No, we good.
Oh, he
Kev.
mummered up.
He's the Mummers, Mumford and Sons, are here to party.
Indeed. We're here to have a good time. We're here to make sure everyone here has a good time.
Okay.
Wait, what track is this?
This is Shinobi.
Oh, Shinobi, okay.
Revenge of
Russian.
Ninja Master. All right, so we're going to listen to Sonic 3 for the Sega Genesis. Playing as Sonic, just clearing the game. Pernell, you go first.
Sonic 3.
Sonic 3.
That game had larger maps. It's a really long game. I'm going to actually go with, just because people still are really good at speedrunning Sonic, but it is a long game, I'm going to go with
People are very good at it.
my last point time, 42 minutes.
42 minutes. People are very good at it, Pernell. Kev.
I'm gonna go with half hour on the nose.
Half an hour. That's pretty good. Andy? Man in Black. Do you have a guess for us?
37.
37.
I'm going to admit I am an NES kid, so I'm going to guess maybe like 45 minutes.
Well, Kev was right on. It was 32 minutes. 37 seconds. Have you seen glitches in Sonic before? They just like jump and they're off the screen and then the game's over. It's fantastic.
I got stuck in the background in one of the Sonic games. I want to say it was probably Sonic 06. There was just a piece of scenery you could stand on that was completely disconnected from the rest of the stage.
You know, a great friend of mine made brownies for me. I felt the exact same way. Just sitting in my living room. It was
I watched
fantastic.
the train crash. I could do nothing.
I'm just watching everything. I'm like, I'm stuck in the wall. Very strong. Okay, we have one more here. Bonk's Revenge for the TurboGrafx 16. Pernell is our TurboGrafx 16 expert. He has to go first. This is expert mode.
I went to university for TurboGrafx, so yes.
TurboGrafx University.
Next door to Bovine University. So Bonk's Revenge. It's been a long time, but I'm going to go with. I'm stealing your time. 30 minutes.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal her time and go with 45 minutes.
Oh, dicey.
I'm going to steal no one's time. I'm going to steal my own time and say 37.
37.
I'm being completely original. 22 minutes.
She is very good at this game, everybody. Pikachu. Give her a round of applause. It was 21 minutes, 55 seconds. Bonk.
How are you
I know someone
doing
who
this?
played that. I know somebody who played it.
That's why I stole
You got
her
it
time.
in. You have it in. I don't know what to make of this. This is insane.
All right, that's all I actually do have. So thank you all very, very much for playing.
I'm just going to be grateful I was able to nail one using logic and reason somehow. So I just recently watched a show called Alice in Borderland after having it recommended to me, and then also hearing people talk about it in a Borders bookstore the day after it was recommended to me. And that show is all about just games of chance and people trying to logically reason through solutions through certain types of games. So I'm really on this kick.
You're really trying to game the
I'm
game.
trying to game games without having penalty of death hanging over my head for failure. So I'm glad I nailed it on one of them.
Well, anyway, thanks you everybody for listening to us. Our podcast is Rhythm and Pixels. You can find us everywhere.
Stitcher, SoundCloud,
Yeah, it's
Radio
online.
Bop.
It's about an hour and a
Kids
half
Bop.
every week. If you want to listen to some new music, if you want to listen to us just sit around, tell some stories. It's pretty breezy. It's pretty quick. It's a fun listen. We have guests on. We have composers. We have cover artists, remix artists. It's a
One
good
of the
time.
bands that's competing for our slot right now is on the show.
Yeah, if we got out of here quickly, we can go see Night of the Round. So I think we should all go do that. Thank you everyone for coming to the show. We are Rhythm and Pixels. Have a great weekend.
Enjoy your MAGFest. Thank you for hanging out with us.